Hey, One Life Church, it is so good to be with you today. My name is Justin. I'm one of the pastors here. This is my friend Carrie. Everybody say hi to Carrie, and she's going to be helping me out today. She's actually going to be preaching next Sunday, so I'm really excited about that. And today her job is to simply unravel that ball of thread. So the entire time we're talking today, that's what she's going to be doing. If you have a ball of thread or a ball of yarn in your house, you want to go grab it, then go ahead, go grab it. If your kids are with you, have them go grab one and just start unraveling it in any way that you want to, maybe all over the house. I don't know what you want to do, but that's what Carrie's going to be doing today. Let me ask you a couple questions. Do you prefer hot weather or cold weather? Okay, so you can answer those out loud wherever you are. Here's another one. Do you prefer sunny weather or cloudy weather? Do you prefer staying up late or getting up really early in the morning? Do you prefer being around a lot of people, or would you prefer to be around just a few people, or even maybe just hanging out by yourself? So this month, all month long, we are celebrating Opposite Day. And what we're doing during this series is we're talking about how the way of Jesus is often different than our ways. It's different than our ways. How the way of Jesus is, in fact, opposite from the ways of this world. We're talking about how Jesus' way is countercultural, or another way you could think about it is that Jesus' ways are upside down. Now, last week, we started this series by talking about this truth that Jesus' ways are always better than my ways. I don't know if this is true for you, but it's true for me. I'm assuming it's true for you, but when things get really hard for me, when things don't go the way that I planned them to go, I freak out. I often flip my lid. When things get hard, my stomach starts turning, my head starts spinning, my chest starts pounding, and I wonder if that's true for you. But when things got hard for Jesus, and we looked at this last week, if you didn't have a chance to hear that sermon, I'd encourage you to go back and listen to it again on YouTube. When things got hard for Jesus, when things didn't go the way that maybe he had planned them to go, when things felt out of control, he didn't freak out. Instead, Jesus trusted his heavenly Father. Today, we're going to continue to lean into the struggles of our everyday life and ask, how do we respond? What do we do whenever things feel out of control? The big idea today is this, that our struggles bring us closer to Jesus. Our struggles on a day-to-day basis, on a month-to-month basis, season to season, our struggles, in fact, bring us closer to Jesus. Now, let me say this right from the beginning as we talk about this big idea today. When we're struggling, when life isn't going the way that we plan, when things get hard, it's not Jesus that moves away from us. I need you to hear that. Because oftentimes when we hear the big idea, our struggles bring us closer to Jesus, we can immediately think that means, and there's an assumption that Jesus somehow moves away from us in the midst of our struggles. But that is not true. Jesus does not move away from us. Rather, it's often that we move away from Jesus when we're struggling. When things don't go our way, when things don't go the way that we plan them, we often pull away from Jesus. We start to trust ourselves. We think that if we work harder, then our struggling will actually turn into success. But what Jesus teaches us is this. He says, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness. So it's not when we work even harder that our struggles turn into success, but Jesus says it's actually opposite. It's upside down. It's countercultural. It's actually that in the midst of your weakness, his power is made perfect. When we are weak, we can actually draw closer to the person of Jesus. We can trust him more. We can walk more closely with him. Our struggles have a way of bringing us closer to Jesus, or there's an opportunity for us to draw near to the person of Jesus in the midst of our struggles. This is a theme that we see all throughout the Bible. That when we feel squeezed, when we feel pulled apart, when life feels overwhelming, when we feel like we're unraveling, that we can actually grow closer to Jesus. We can trust him more. We see this all throughout the biblical narrative. Take Noah's story, for example. His world is being turned upside down. God speaks to him, tells him that he wants him to build a big boat, and people are laughing at him. People think that he has lost his mind. And then it starts raining, and raining, and raining, and raining. Have you ever had a season of life where it feels like it won't stop raining? In Noah's story, his struggle brought him closer to God. It was an opportunity for him to trust God in the midst of the storm. Or what about a guy named Daniel in the Old Testament? In Daniel, he refuses to worship anyone except for Yahweh. But the king, King Darius, comes and tells Daniel, you have to worship me. You have to worship me. You have to bow before me instead of worshiping Yahweh. And Daniel refuses. And so King Darius and the men around him throw Daniel into a lion's den. That seems like a tight spot. Have you ever had a season of life where you felt squeezed? Like the walls were pressing in from all sides? What comes to mind is that scene in Star Wars where they're stuck in the trash compactor and the walls start squeezing in and they're crying out for help. And the walls just keep pressing in all around them. Have you ever had a season like that? In Daniel's story, his struggle brought him closer to God. It was an opportunity for him to trust God while being squeezed. Or what about Esther? The king in the story of Esther was threatening to kill all of her family and friends. And she decides that she has been called by God to stand up to the king, to go to the king and convince him to change his mind. Now, the crazy thing about that story is the king could have had her killed just for wanting to talk to the king. That seems like an impossible situation, or maybe even a lose-lose situation. Have you ever faced an impossible situation? Have you ever felt like a decision that you made was just a lose-lose decision? In Esther's story, her struggle brought her closer to God. It was an opportunity to trust God with the impossible. Our struggles bring us closer to Jesus. In Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 5 through 8, God reminds his people that they can trust him in every circumstance. That they can trust him no matter the situation that they're facing. That they can trust him when they are walking through a storm. That they can trust him whenever they are feeling squeezed. That they can trust him whenever the walls are pressing in. That they can trust him in the impossible. He even gives them a strict warning in Jeremiah 17, saying that those who trust in themselves will actually be blown from side to side. Listen to what he says. Cursed is the strong one who depends on mere humans, who thinks that he can make it on muscle alone and sets God aside as dead weight. He's like a tumbleweed on the prairie, out of touch with the good earth. He lives rootless and aimless in a land where nothing grows. But blessed is the man who trusts me. Blessed is the woman who sticks with God. They're like trees replanted in Eden, putting down roots near the rivers, never a worry through the hottest of summers, never dropping a leaf, calm through droughts, bearing fresh fruit in every season. Now, the strict warning seems a little harsh, doesn't it? He says that we would be cursed when we depend on ourselves, when we depend on our own muscle. He tells us that we will be blown side to side. It seems a little harsh. Really, God? Really, that's what's going to happen when we trust in ourselves. But think about it for a second. Think about your own life experience. When you tried to white-knuckle the situation, when you tried to overfunction in the face of the impossible, when you tried to worry yourself through the season of being squeezed, when you tried to swim through the flood, how'd it work out for you? How'd that work out? I would imagine that it didn't work out very well because it never works out very well for me. And so God is right. God is right. Those who trust in themselves when they struggle, they will be blown side to side. But those who trust in Him when they struggle, they will be like a tree planted by the water. They will be rooted in the source of all good things. You know, just this past week, I experienced this firsthand. To be honest, it seemed like everything that I touched, everything that I worked on, every response that I had caused things to unravel. And to be honest, when that starts happening, I just pull more. I squeeze tighter. I work harder. And it unravels even more. And then on Wednesday, this past week, God led me to a story in the life of Jesus. It's a story where Jesus is actually hanging on the cross. They're crucifying Him. And He's tired. He's being squeezed from all sides. He's facing an impossible situations. The floodwaters seem to be rising. Things are unraveling very quickly. He's about to die. And this is what Jesus says to His Father in heaven from the cross. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I wonder, Carrie, if you could do something for me. Could you put that back? No? I mean, you think if you worked hard enough and long enough and you concentrated enough, could you put it back exactly the way it was? But we think we can, right? When things unravel, when things are in knots, when things come apart, when things have been pulled apart, we seem to think that if we just work hard enough, we could put it back together. But of course that's not true. But we try, don't we? And we make a mess of it. We trust ourselves to make it all right, and we end up with more knots. But not Jesus. Not Jesus. In this moment of raveling, and we're looking at how the way of Jesus is living is upside down. It's countercultural. See, His ways are different than our ways. When He faces the moment of unraveling, when He faces the impossible, when He faces the storm, in that moment, He looks to His Father in heaven and He says, Father, I commit my spirit, I commit my mess to you. I give it to you. I trust you. I give this impossible situation to you. I I give it to you. I trust you. Now, Jesus on the cross is actually quoting Psalm 31. And I want to encourage you this week to go and read Psalm 31 on your own. But I want to look at the first few verses. Psalm 31, verses 1 through 5 say, O Lord, I have come to you for protection. Now remember, and I don't know if you know this, but the way that this would work is if a rabbi like Jesus would quote one part of a psalm, they were actually quoting the entire psalm. And so when he quotes this part of the psalm, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, his audience, those listening, even the teachers of the law who are throwing stones at him and spitting upon him, immediately Psalm 31 comes to their mind. And so with a line, Jesus prays the entirety of Psalm 31. O Lord, I have come to you for protection. Don't let me be disgraced. Save me, for you do what is right. Turn your ear and listen to me. Rescue me quickly. Be my rock of protection, a fortress where I will be safe. You are my rock and my fortress. For the honor of your name, lead me out of this danger. Pull me from the trap my enemies set for me, for I find protection in you alone. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Rescue me, Lord, for you are a faithful God. Now the psalmist in Psalm 31 continues on over the next few verses, describing how so many of the things around him have failed, including his own efforts to trust himself. And this psalm, Psalm 31, almost seems hopeless. It seems like the psalmist and Jesus is in a place of despair, as if the struggle, as if the squeezing, as if the unraveling, as if the impossible is going to have the final word. And then in verse 14, the psalmist and Jesus says, but I trust you. But I trust you, O Lord. When Jesus is being pulled apart, when Jesus is being squeezed, when things are unraveling, he prays, Abba, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I trust you. This is the opposite of how I often respond to my struggles. But thank God there's an invitation to always follow the example of Jesus. Thank God there's an invitation to draw closer to Jesus in the midst of my struggle. Thank God there's an invitation to pray the prayer of Jesus in the midst of my struggle. Abba, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I trust you. Will you make that your prayer today? Think about the place in your life where things are unraveling, where things are in knots, where you're facing the impossible, where the water seems to be rising. Think about that place right now. Where is that place in your life? Now, rather than trying to put it all back together on your own, will you draw closer to Jesus? Will you trust him? Will you pray the prayer of Jesus? Abba, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I trust you. Will you make that your prayer today? I'd love for you to extend your hands and receive the benediction. It comes from Psalm 31 in the Message translation. Let's read the benediction together. I run to you, O God. Don't let me down. You're my hiding place, my rock to stand on. Be my guide. Free me from the hidden traps. I've put my life in your hands. You won't drop me. You'll never let me down. Oh God, I trust you. I'm leaping and I'm singing in the circle of your love. You see my pain. You disarm my tormentors. You won't leave me in their clutches, but you give me room to breathe. Be kind to me, oh God. I'm in deep, deep trouble again. I cry out to you. I feel hollow inside. My life leaks away groan by groan. My troubles have worn me out, turned my bones to powder. Desperate, I throw myself on you. You are my God. Hour by hour, I place my days in your hands. Abba, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I trust you. Abba, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. I trust you.